Size matters, doesn't it? You know it, I know it, and Skoda clearly knows it. In fact, that was one of the main selling points of the previous Octavia. It was based on the Volkswagen Golf, but bigger, and so therefore better value for money. And this new version of the Octavia is actually even bigger than before. Now the boot is not only the biggest in this class, it's actually bigger than the boots of cars from the class above. And you can get it with these handy nets to stop all your items rolling about the cabin. Though I do have a word of warning because they're spring loaded, which means they sometimes fight back. I want to show you something else actually. Skoda has thought of ways to make life easier for its customers, and here in the fuel filler cap there is an ice scraper which also has a magnifying glass. That could come in handy. Anyway, let's check out the back seats. The wheelbase on this new Octavia is actually 10 centimetres longer than before, and as a result you get even more leg room. I mean, look how much knee room there is in the back of this car. Headroom's good as well, and you know, I'm 5'10" and a half, and I add the half because, as we've already established, size does matter. So does build quality, and the Octavia doesn't disappoint in this department either. Everything is well screwed together like you'd expect from a Volkswagen Group product, and all the controls are logically laid out and the instruments easy to read. Storage space is good too, thanks to large door bins and a smattering of useful cubby spaces. When it comes to selecting your Skoda Octavia, you only really need the entry-level S model because it's actually very well equipped. You get things like height adjustment on the driver's seat and reach, and height adjustment on the steering wheel. You've got alloy wheels. It also comes with air conditioning. You've got 7 airbags in here, electronic anti-skid control. There's Bluetooth for your mobile phone, and there's also iPod connectivity. Plus you get this touch screen, and when you put your finger close to it, the icons pop up. It senses that your finger's there, and it even includes DAB, digital radio. There's a wide range of options too, including a self-park system for those intimidated by the Octavia's increased size. As well as bay parking it can also parallel park the car lengthways into a space. It controls the steering for you. All you have to do is operate the brakes, throttle and gears. Now, it doesn't really matter if your camera person decides to play a little practical joke on you by blocking you into your parking space, because this car also has the facility to steer you out of tight parking spots. Alright, so here we go. Now, it might take a few manoeuvres if you're in a really tricky spot. At least you don't have to do the hard part, which, of course, is the steering. And the car reckons I should be able to get out from there. Do I trust it? Yes, it did it! Freedom! You can get the Octavia with a range of Volkswagen Group engines, and most people probably go for the diesels, and they're very good. But unless you do lots of miles or need to pull a trailer, it's worth considering the 1.2 litre petrol. Now, you may think I've gone a little bit mad and that a 1.2 could never pull a car of this size, but that engine has a turbocharger on it and it actually feels pretty swift. I've even driven it with, well, 3 adults on board as well as myself, and it didn't struggle. And the best thing is, not only is it the cheapest engine, it'll also do 57 miles per gallon. So then, what's the Octavia like to drive? Well, I'm pleased to report that it's actually very good. When you're horsing up and down the motorway, it's sufficiently quiet enough, and when you get on a twisty road such as this, it can still hold its own because the steering's sharp, there's plenty of grip, and doesn't roll about at all through the corners. Now, part of the reason for that is that the suspension is pretty firm, and some people may find it a little bit bumpy on rough surfaces, but you know what? it's still a comfy car, and you can alter the way it feels to drive by pressing this button down here and choosing the driving mode. So in normal, the steering is normal, and the throttle response, yeah, that's normal too. Press the button again, go into sport mode, and the steering weights up and the throttle response becomes sharper, and it makes the car feel, well, more sporty. However, I'd never describe the Octavia as being a fun car to drive. You're going to have to wait for the hot hatch VRS model for that. There can be no disputing that the Octavia is a really good car. However, I wouldn't be doing my job, would I, as a motoring journalist, if I didn't find a few bad points with it. And so, if you give me a moment, I'll think of a few, all right? Now I think I've got some. Right, see that armrest? It's a £150 option on all but the top spec model. I mean, come on, Skoda. Everybody wants somewhere to put their elbow, don't they? And then there's the back window. It's so far away because the car's so huge that rear visibility isn't great. And another thing I've noticed are the brakes. They're good. In fact, in some ways, they're too good because you only touch the pedal and yeah, you're kind of almost head-butting the steering wheel. They're just so sharp. Then there's the load bay. Okay, so nothing in this class can beat it for space. It's just a shame the boot lip is quite high, and that when the seats are folded, you don't get a completely flat floor. To be honest though, those are all just minor issues, and they shouldn't put you off the Skoda Octavia because it's a truly great car that does everything well and offers unbeatable space for the money. In fact, we think it's so good here at Carbuyer that we've named it as our Family Car of the Year for 2013.